Good. All right, let us move on. I think we're continuing in our Your Stock, Our Take segment. Brett's going to answer a question on Neptune Digital Assets, a company that I believe he looked at about a year ago in that range or over the past
Yeah.
year.
It was last November when I looked
Okay.
at it.
In the last year.
I've looked at a couple of these crypto holding companies, the other one on the podcast being MicroStrategy. I can't remember if we did any of the other ones because that's something that's been really flavor of the month or flavor of the year is these cryptocurrency holding companies for Bitcoin and now Ethereum and so on and some other ones.
Yes.
Here, before you start too, Brett, can you guys hear that background noise or could you hear that tractor outside? No. Okay, perfect. Good.
Tractor. Only.
Well, it's a Zoom boom. It's not a tractor. It's a Zoom boom.
It's still funny.
Yeah, so like Ryan said, covered the Neptune Digital Assets last November, and it subsequently it surged in price, but it's since declined. So we can look at it as a bit of a dog of the week, a bit of an update in general, however we want to slice it. So Neptune Digital Assets, symbol NDA on the TSX Venture. If you don't know, it operates in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space. Neptune engages in operations across the digital asset ecosystem, including Bitcoin mining, proof of stake for various chains, blockchain nodes, decentralized finance or DeFi, and other associated cutting-edge technologies. The company, however, is just in its current form is effectively reliant on its various crypto assets holdings to drive value. So, like I said before, the stocks have really just had a turbulent time over the past year since really becoming that focus on a crypto treasury company. The shares are now trading at $1.08, a $137 million market cap. The stock is still significantly higher than what it was a year ago before this ship, up 300%. But that is about 61% lower than the all-time high of 278 set in late January of 2025. And since the prior segment I did last November, the stock is up 10% from 98 cents. So a bit more of a dog recently, with the last month it's actually fallen about 21%. So bit of a dog, bit of a Your Stock, Our Take. But let's go through the company. So first off, we're just going to look through the income statement. It's not really the driving force or value creator for the company, apparent, because it's not really an operating company, but it helps explain the business. So that's why I want to go through it. As you can see, though, the revenue from Bitcoin mining and staking crypto is all of its revenue, and it's not much. If you net off the costs of mining against the mining revenue, it's effectively break even, and that's before depreciation, which would probably put it slightly into a loss position. And then with about $200K in revenue in staking revenue in the last quarter, this will vary heavily quarter to quarter, just depending on the stake crypto asset prices, just the way it's marked. And the staking revenue does not really cover the costs of other expenses, consulting, SG&A, etc. So you're an operating loss company. It's a holding company. It's similar to other traditional financial holding companies in any sense. The other line items, which I just want to highlight here as well, that are notable are the revaluation in realized and unrealized equity security, which leads up to the net loss of $737K. But those revaluations are due to the equity holdings, mainly SpaceX, as well as they do have an equity fund, which is about $1.2 million at this time, but non-substantial now. With the cryptocurrency revaluations as well, and that is below net income, it's not added to your EPS, so it's comprehensive earnings. Due to the accounting standards, that added about $7.9 million to the comprehensive income. So it's really just the crypto value is driving the company. So shifting to what the company holds, is that is really, at the end of the day, the most important aspect of the company. It is dominated by Bitcoin at this point in time. I know the company initially was where a Solana holding company really wanted to drive up that aspect, but it was still, even at that time, it was still driven by Bitcoin, and it is even more so now. They hold 405 Bitcoin at a current market cap or current market value of $45.6 million, and that represents 82.3% of the crypto assets. So it's just dominated by Bitcoin, with the second largest crypto holding being Solana at 12.6%, or just under $7 million, with the remainder being an assortment of Atom, Sonic, which was formerly Phantom, Ethereum, and others, including Elon Musk's favorite Doge. The other notable investment, and perhaps probably the most interesting in my opinion, is the company actually has a private equity stake in SpaceX, which was last valued at $8.2 million for their stake, and that'd be on a $400 billion market cap. So massive market cap, but they don't hold much of it. And that's actually, we had a question last time, which I want to highlight, that they were asking something along the lines of, is it a suitable way to gain exposure to SpaceX through NDA. And the reality is no, it's not what drives the market value. It's too small of a stake, even in respect to the company's market cap, is not going to be what drives the value of the shares, at least under their current degree of ownership. The other fact to consider with the company, it is leveraged, although not a significant degree at this time. They have about 6.4 million in outstanding debt, which is about 10% of their total financial assets. And that's borrowed at 8.9% and is secured against the 102 of the company's Bitcoin at the time. That value may fluctuate over time depending on the price of Bitcoin and how much they borrow. But something which I see brought up time and time again for the support, the bullish thesis behind these Bitcoin treasury companies or crypto treasury companies in general is these institutions are able to borrow and leverage at a lower rate. And that's not really occurring, at least with NDA here. I know MicroStrategy, you can argue that to a higher degree, but you're not seeing that here. 8.9%, that's not unreasonable for a retail investor to get a margin loan at, or even some other sort of leverage term loan or personal finance loan. Under the current facility, though, they have borrowing capacity of 25 million, so they could leverage up a bit more if they desire to. But overall, when you do compare the total investments against the market cap of the company at this time, the shares have a 68% premium. So you're overpaying. If you're looking at a traditional holding company, normally they hover actually slightly below the book value of their assets. And right now there's a 68% premium. So you're overpaying in respect to the underlying assets. And further, that might even be hindered even more as there is 12.7 million in outstanding stock options and warrants, which, if exercised, would actually keep the premium about the same right now. Just the way the math happened to work out, it would be about still 68%. But depending on which ones are exercised, so if those lower, the 20 and 30 cents warrants are exercised, that premium would go up. If they're all exercised, it will say just happens to be about the same. But you do lose that long-term upside. And if you were ever wanting to buy something like this, you'd be looking towards the long outstretched upside. And those warrants do start to hinder that, especially if they do become every year they dilute another 10 million options or 10 million shares through options. That does add up over time. And that is something you don't watch ever. If you were to invest in anything ever like this, is dilution does matter over time. And for comparison's sakes, as the company is primarily holding Bitcoin and it is a driver of the stock, it is really the driver of the stock more than anything. Let's compare the price. Since my segment last year, relatively arbitrary date. And as you can see, Neptune did outperform Bitcoin for most of the time since, but Bitcoin actually ended up just, once again, arbitrary date. It's actually had a high return over the past 9 or so months, 27% compared to about the 10%. Relatively arbitrary date, but you can also see here, which I really want to point out, is how volatile Neptune is. And this is because you have speculative assets, crypto speculative, whether you're completely bullish or not, it is a very speculative asset just by the stats behind it. And then on top of that, you have it wrapped in a speculative financial structure, being the holding company, as it does not intrinsically need to attach to the net asset value all the time. So you have 2 layers of volatility, so you just get these massive swings. If you ask me at the start of the year, the stock would have been a star of the week instead of a dog of the week. But right now, you can see the last month, it is well underperformed Bitcoin. And now it's our dog of the week more than anything. So really, just to sum it up, very speculative stock. The share value is disconnected from net asset values like most crypto treasury companies. And for now, it is our dog of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you said at the end there, underperforming Bitcoin, it seems kind of pointless because there seems like a higher level of risk in underperforming right now, in the last month.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it is a bit of an arbitrary data. I know people will argue about that if you bought here at this point in the graph. But the reality is if you bought during those times and it was $2, $2.50, you would have lost money. And that's at the end of the day that's what I was trying to warn out against about my segment last year. These do get very hypey stocks. They can go way up, but they'll come right back down eventually once the fundamentals do eventually start to matter. It may take some time, but it does have that gravity against you. You're pushing up against it. So it's not a great business model at the end of the day. None of these really are. They might make you money in the short term for traders or speculators, but a long-term buy and hold investor, they just aren't suitable in any manner. If you want Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. Like, it's just that simple.
Yeah, I think keep it simple, stupid on that.
Exactly.
Is what we would recommend.